Okay, so I'm here with Susan Bonds, the CEO of 42 Entertainment, and it's day two of Sounds Digital here in London. So, Susan, first of all, the internet is developing in a way that is totally unpredictable for traditional marketing campaigns. And when I was talking to Frank Rose last week, he outlined the characteristics of online behavior as interactive, non-linear, and participatory, so three elements. And these definitely apply to the kind of things that you do at 42 Entertainment. How do you come up with the concept of doing this sort of campaigns, and where did it start out?
That's a great question, and Frank definitely has his finger on the pulse of kind of what's going on. I think that people today want to have a role in their entertainment. And definitely music is something that's very personal and touches people. And so feeling like you can participate or contribute or somehow be involved in something that you love is very important. I think nonlinear, participatory, and interactive are characteristics of kind of what is our signature product, which is an alternate reality game. And we really saw kind of a niche for doing a different type of storytelling where we actually got people involved in an experience that wasn't contained in the medium in which it originated. So if you think about the Year Zero project, which we did with 9 Inch Nails and Trent Reznor, it was the idea that the music expanded beyond just the borders of an album or the music, the digital music itself, but it actually took on a life that was made possible by the fact that technology now has an important role in all of our lives. We're constantly connected, and the fact that we can do things to interact with or participate in relative real time and immediacy. And I think the nonlinear part comes in. The way that we saw that was as an opportunity. So to redefine storytelling, it's like if we're now kind of device agnostic, and we're constantly connected, how do we use that as an opportunity to keep the story going? Yeah. And how do we use that as an opportunity to let the audience discover the story? And so that was the great hole that we saw that we kind of stepped into with alternate reality games.
And your company is about creating interest and conversations between the fans. A lot of these projects you worked on are quite high profile. What elements do you think could be used by somebody that is starting out or is a bit smaller to take some of the things that you deployed and use them for their own campaigns?
Well, my advice when you're trying to start a two-way conversation is, first of all, know what it is that you want to say and what it is that you want to use to connect with people. And I think that if you're clear about that, then it really comes. What we've seen is that that the demand is there based on the behaviors that we just talked about. So it's really about thinking things through. Understanding that when you start a two-way conversation, it's actually something that you need to maintain and nurture. So thinking through how the community might grow, how it might build, what expectations might they develop. And it's also thinking about how you do it. Yeah. Because this is a very savvy audience. And sometimes how it happens is as important as what it is you're trying to start the conversation about. So a great example of that would be Trent wanted to expose people to the music of Year Zero, and we were starting a campaign that was really based on a lot of mystery and discovery and leading people into a story that would ultimately unfold based on their participation. So the idea came up to actually leak one of the songs from the album that was important in the story at that moment on a thumb drive that someone would find at a concert in the bathroom. So it was kind of like the fact that the song got out that way was almost as important as the song that contributed to the story, because people were just like, I can't believe how that happened. So I think it's being clever about how you engage with your audience and really respecting them.
And in a sense, you've worked with both music and movies, games and books even. How do you go about dealing with the people involved in the projects? For example, with 9 Inch Nails, the main person you could refer to was Trent Reznor. He had almost complete control over the project. But if you're working with somebody like the Batman franchise with the Dark Knight, you probably had to deal with the whole marketing department that was working with the promotion of the movie, which is a completely different experience for you as a campaigner, I guess. How did you deal with those two types of campaign and to different personalities and types of medium?
Well, that's a great question. One of the great attributes of alternate reality experiences is they're trying to extend the creative experience of the native platform. So in the case of the album, obviously, I would say that Trent had total creative control, but he knows where the music is coming from, and so he's able to really be the guide for if that is staying on target. For something like The Dark Knight, we also got to work with the filmmakers, because we're in a sense we're staying in fiction, in their world, and so it's very important that the characters are consistent. Things are revealed in the right order or not revealed if it's important, to the way that the film goes, and to that end, also for the marketing of the film, there are very specific goals that they had. So it's really a question of understanding the objectives and the goals up front. And I think one of the beauties of the fact that we're all now connected by this connective tissue of the web is that there's relative real-time feedback, but you can also be very targeted. Goals can shift and change over time. If you're planning, if you're having a two-way conversation that's existing over an extended period, you can punctuate that with very specific goals. So for example, for The Dark Knight, we wanted to do something in a very specific time period that attracted more women. So it's really a question of understanding the creative landscape, and then understanding the very specific objectives, whether they're creative objectives or marketing objectives, or active engagement objectives, and then just figuring out on that timeline, on that spine, when's the right time to do it, by monitoring the community in real time and listening to them.
Yeah, and the types of campaigns that you conduct are kind of alternate reality as a concept, but they are impossible to standardize, because as soon as you start to standardize something, then you kill it, in a sense. You can't recreate exactly the same thing. And at the same time, you must have loads of people now coming to you and asking to create something for them that fits this model. How do you go about sifting through the ideas that you receive of people that want to work with you and finding something that you think actually can work in this space and actually has a story that is compelling enough for people to listen to?
Well, the first word that comes to mind is authentic. Certainly entertainment is a universal attractor. And so if you have a good creative product to work with, then extending that out across platforms should be something that feels naturally organic and authentic. And so that's number one. And depending on what it is and what genre you're working in or what product specific you're working in, it may be that you're just using mobile, or it may be that you're doing something that is extending a live event, or so you really just have to look at what matches. And I do think that entertainment as a concept, using entertainment to pull people into an experience as a way of driving awareness has proven to be very effective. But I think the things that we look for are, again, going back to the first question, if you're going to create a two-way conversation, then what is it that you're really using to connect with people? Yeah. And if the property is strong and that emotional connection is strong and it has the potential for exploding out across platforms, then that's really how we evaluate it.
And going back to what you said yesterday about the importance of pre-planning these events right to the very end. In other words, the need to find a specific end game and climax for those that are taking part in this experience. Otherwise, it just fizzles out and doesn't lead to anything. How did you plan these events, and how long does it take to plan something like this? Or do you kind of figure out the end whilst you've already started the campaign?
That's a great question. And again, I think that the world that we're living in right now gives you the opportunity to do things in relative real time that can respond to audience response. So I think you want to design that in. So we kind of follow the 70-30 rule, where up front you want to design out where you're going. I call it the spine of the experience. You want to do that because I think that if you don't know where you're going, it's immediately obvious to your audience that you have no plan. So you need to have a plan. You shouldn't be afraid to modify that plan as you're going along, which is why we retain the 30% that we're going to be using to react to what people really, really respond to. But you need to know where you're going in order for it to be a completely thought out entertainment experience. So it's both things. Sometimes the planning can take weeks. Sometimes it can take months up front, depending on what kind of ambitious project you're taking on.
Yeah.
And I think that more and more people are having a long-term view. I see it in almost every industry. Gaming is starting a year out to build buzz for a new title. Movies are starting a year and a half, 2 years out. So I think that and television is thinking about, well, how do we build an audience for a show before it's even premiered? So I think that everyone's thinking about the potential of this new media and how do we use it in a very genuine and organic and authentic way.
And there's a huge amount of creativity involved in doing this kind of thing, but there's also quite a bit of tech savviness, and in a way you must use a lot of analytics tools as well to understand what is going on. So what is the role of analytics in this new context that is very creative but also needs to be in a sort of way quantified? You need to understand where the audience is or what it wants.
Well, that's interesting, because I've recently been in some discussions where people are like, well, can't we just create art for art's sake? But in reality, everyone wants to reach an audience, and reaching an audience is a measure of what it is that you're doing. Yeah. And so analytics are incredibly important, and I think that's an opportunity and a challenge on the web, because we can actually know more about our audience. We can know geographically where they are. We can know if depending on the structure of the experience, we can know a lot of different things about them, and we can certainly understand their intersection behaviors, their dwell time, which is a very interesting data point that you don't necessarily get when you're measuring other entertainment or advertising elements. So I think that there's a lot of information available, but I think that there's maybe less understanding of what those analytics mean. Yeah. So I think we have to do a better job as a group, in new media, of explaining the importance of data and presenting it in a way where it relates to very, very known and traditional analytics side by side, and we're saying, what is this? We're getting the complete picture of how we're engaging the audience. But more importantly, what does it mean? I think alternate reality games have now been around for quite a while, almost a decade, right? So it can't just be evaluated on a novelty or a creative basis. It has to be effective, either as an art form or as a marketing tool. And
going forward, what kind of plans can you talk about that you're working on, and what's exciting you for 42 Entertainment at the moment?
Well, normally we're very close-mouthed about things that we're working on, but I can say that we're currently searching for legendary game designer and digital pioneer Kevin Flynn. And if you're a fan of Tron, you would certainly know what that meant. But I think that we're not trying to say that alternate reality games are the answer for everyone, but certainly an active kind of pull engagement that recognizes the importance of the audience and their desire to participate, and uses entertainment as an attractor. There's many different varieties of that, and it can be very effective and also very liberating for an artist who's no longer just defined by a single platform. And I think the greatest example of that is what Trent Reznor did with Year Zero, where he really took the idea of a concept album and completely redefined it across multiple platforms, and it was all a part of the project.
Cool, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen with the 42.